when multiple motions are raised, please take a note of them. So then when we vote upon them, we can finally just add the one which is passed. So we'll have Republic of Korea followed by USA followed by Qatar.
Sir, I would like to raise the motion, but I have to tell this that there hasn't been no consensus established upon the. Okay, I get it. Sorry.
Just raise the motion. Don't say all.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So the motion is the different connotations of freedom of speech and expression all over the globe and the strategies to safeguard the basic liberties of the citizens. Total speaker time is 20 minutes. Individual speaker time being 1.5 minutes, and yeah.
20 and 1.5.
Yes. Would you want it in a divisible ratio?
Yeah, obviously, right?
Okay, so 20 minutes and individual speaker time 2 minutes.
Yeah, so different connotations of freedom of speech and expression around the world, right?
Yes, sir. And the strategies to safeguard the basic liberties of the citizens.
Okay, and
I have put it on the group.
Oh yeah, but the strategies to safeguard the basic liberties. Basic liberties, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's 20 and 2 minutes. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Just a second.
So could I amend it?
No.
Okay.
That's Republic of Korea. So Leah, you could see sheet 4. In sheet 4, just add these notices, as in when they are mentioned. So next we have USA.
So I wanted to raise the same motion.
Okay. Qatar.
I have backed the motion.
No. Do you have a motion, sir?
No.
Luxembourg.
I had to raise the same motion as Republic of Korea.
Yeah, so if I stop USA, I'm obviously going to stop other people also. You can't. So yeah. Okay. So we'll move ahead and vote. So delegates in favor, please raise your hands. And everyone has to vote either in favor or against. We'll give you 10 more seconds. Delegates in favor of this motion stating different connotations of freedom of speech and expression around the world and the strategies to safeguard the basic liberties. Total time 20 minutes, per speaker time 2. So that means 10 speakers. Perfect. So we have 18 nine. So vote at once. Don't vote and then remove it. So we have 18 delegates in favor. Thank you. Put your hands down. Delegates against. I'm assuming 4 people raised their hand right now. Delegates against. Republic of Korea, you are against your motion. Yeah. So I just wanted to check if everyone is voting or not. Thank you. So this clearly passes. We'll be having a moderated session for the next 20 minutes. Leah, just copy paste the topic on the everyone section also, so everyone can keep a tab of it. Yeah, so just give us a second. We'll recognize the speakers. Delegates wishing to speak in this moderated session, please raise your hands. We'll be recognizing 10 members. Okay. Yeah. So Drishik or Leah, please add these names which I call out on sheet 3. USA, Qatar. Once I call out your name, please put your hand down. USA, Qatar, Luxembourg, Republic of India, Netherlands, Republic of Korea. We have recognized 6 members so far. Delegates wishing to speak, please raise your hands. Any delegates wishing to speak? We had around 18 votes for this motion. We are not taking second time right now. We're taking members who haven't added their names. So Luxembourg, you can put your hand down for now, unless there's a point or a doubt. Okay, so seeing none, we'll ask for names again after a while. So with that, the delegate of USA, you have the floor for 2 minutes. But is the OC member here who was sharing the screen, Gaurav or Bianca, who was going to share?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah, please share the screen and set the timer to 2 minutes again. Thank you, Gaurav. Yeah, so USA, you may start.
Dissent and criticism of the government are essential ingredients of robust public debate in a vibrant democracy. Right to question, criticize, and change rule is a very fundamental to the idea of democracy. Therefore, I request the delegates of the House to look into the nuances of this law in UNHRC affiliated countries and ensure the basic rights of the lawful citizens. First, the sedition law is being misused as a tool to persecute political dissent. A wide and concerted executive discretion is inbuilt into it, which permits the blatant abuse. We can prevent the misuse of sedition law by implementing freedom of speech and expression and constitution without using vague terms and build robust regarding its implementation. Safeguarding press is an essential requisite for the freedom of expression. A press is indispensable in a democracy. I sincerely urge members to fulfill their positive obligations to protect journalism and other media actors from any form of attack and to end impunity in compliance with the European Convention on Human Rights and in light of the case law, and invite member states to review at least once every 2 years to conformity of this domestic law and practices. Freedom of anonymity of whistleblowers and extreme journalism on online platforms is also one of the main need of the hour. Anonymity should be granted as an essential practice to ensure safety of the stringent reporters. They should be made. There should be laws made for differentiating between fake news and actual news, and proper investigation in the and proper investigation should be made for the high requirement in sensitive cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Do you wish to entertain any questions?
Yes.
All those wishing to ask the delegate of USA any questions, please raise your hands. I repeat, all those wishing to ask the delegate of USA questions. Thank you. So we have Qatar and China. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. In that order.
Thank you, Chair. So the delegate of the US was going to follow up via chit on the exact same question about Edward Snowden, which he has propagated in this speech itself. So if the rights of journalists are to be protected, why are your own journalists being held captive in a foreign country's embassy? If the delegate of the US
Well,
answer that.
Yes, delegate. That's what I'm saying. As of till now, there's not proper investigations which have been put forward for these sensitive cases. That's why I'm implementing this as a solution for everyone and myself to implement this solution in the future, so that there's no misuse of any law and any misinformation passed regarding any journalist. Thank you.
Need to follow up?
No, Chair.
Yeah, China.
To delegate of USA, I want to ask this, that according to my data, that till as of 2019, 3.5% of telling incidents of civilians were killed by police. So what is the reason for that?
Point of personal privilege.
Yeah. Delegate of China, could you please repeat the question? Try coming closer to your device and speak slowly.
Okay. I want to ask the delegate of USA that the 33.5% of every per 10 million residents of USA, 33% rate of civilians killed by police and police. So these were the custodial deaths. So what is the reason of 2000 in 2000?
Do you understand the question, ma'am?
Not so clear.
Answer what you want.
Okay. Regarding the custodial deaths, as the delegate mentioned, yes, there have been cases of custodial deaths, and the US government has put forward 3 solutions, which are which I'm again stating, which is they have changed the laws of use of force. Many states have restricted or clarified the type of force that can be used by the officers. on certain circumstances, and duty for the officers to intervene, report, or render medical aid in instances of police misconduct. And also, and if police are using their powers, their authorization can be revoked in cases of misuse. So these are the 3 new laws implemented.
I appreciate your answer was correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Moving ahead, next we have Qatar.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Qatar believes that the freedom of expression and speech are important human rights, but it should not come at the cost of endangering societal stability and endangering human lives. Keeping this approach in mind, most countries have some form of laws against hate speech to protect the lives and property of all its citizens. Therefore, as the delegate of the USA had correctly stated, in case of the sedition laws, the only problem which is faced by most countries is how often to exercise the powers vested in them by such laws to jail dissenters, and the level of dissent which is to be tolerated by governments so that ideas spreads freely among the populace, ultimately resulting in a liberal and democratic society. It is quite obvious that young countries such as Qatar, which gained their independence in 1971, would have a lower level of dissent tolerance as compared to older countries such as the United States of America. But as time passes and countries, especially countries which got independence from the colonial masters, when they mature, they too will become more tolerant over time, and this would result in a fairer and freer world for all humans on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to entertain any questions?
Yes.
All those wishing to ask the delegate of Qatar any questions, please raise your hands. So we have one question that is from the Republic of Korea. Go ahead.
Delegate, my question is very simple. Why do you think that the duration of your independence is correlated or is correlated with what do you call as the basic liberties of the citizens, or what do you call as the dissent tolerance? Why do you think that it is obvious that both of them should be correlated to each other?
Thank you, Republic of Korea. So this is for the simple reason why I think they are correlated is because all human institutions are built on a certain level of trust, and this trust, especially in the national framework, it comes from the presence of a strong national identity. And since younger countries do not have that strong national identity, any dissenting voices, if they are strong enough, could collapse the entire foundations of such countries. So this is why I think both of them are correlated.
So no plea to follow.
Thank you. Moving ahead, we have delegate of Luxembourg.
Yes. The delegate of Luxembourg will especially focus on the strategies to safeguard the basic liberties of people in non-democratic regimes. To begin with, an example to take into account is the age of monarchy.
Apologies. 1 second. Gaurav, can you please start the timer? OC member, are you here? Bianca?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I am here.
Please.
I have started it like
We can't see the timer.
okay.
Shania needs some help.
No, I needed it, but Gaurav is here now.
All right, thank you.
Gaurav, please start it again. It wasn't started back then. Yeah, thank you. Luxembourg, you can start now.
The
Apologies.
delegate of Luxembourg will especially focus on the strategies to safeguard the basic liberties of people in non-democratic regime. To begin with, an example to take into account is the age of monarchy. Here, the king was supreme and the subjects have no right. But Magna Carta 1215 was the first document to put into writing the principle that the king and his government were not above the law. Hence, to tackle this issue, to begin with, as Mr. V.P. Raja said this morning, every skill and knowledge we learn can be either used for the welfare of the mankind or its abuse. So spreading awareness and improving the moral fabric of society is important. Only then citizens will be able to exert enough pressure on the non-democratic regime. This is when something like Magna Carta would come into being. And Mr. Narendra Kumar Savare also this morning stated the same thing. Awareness and effective laws are the solutions. In addition, Luxembourg stands as an example here as well. Luxembourg was a monarchy earlier, but now is a unitary parliamentary constitutional monarchy. The Grand Duke is Henry and is largely symbolic. Executive and legislative have a link, but the judiciary is totally independent to ensure that justice prevails. Voting is compulsory act of citizenship that is a tool for the citizens to exercise their right to freedom of speech and expression. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you like to, yeah, so we have a point of personal privilege. Yes, sir.
Sir, could the delegate please repeat the name of the individual she referred to in her speech?
Yes.
Sure. So I refer to 1 minute. Mr. VP Raja.
Okay.
He's the chairman of PCGT.
I get it.
Thank you. Thank you. So, ma'am, would you like to entertain any questions?
Yes.
All those wishing to ask questions, please raise your hand. So, we have one question again from the Republic of Korea. Go ahead, sir.
The delegate of Luxembourg, could you please explain what relation does the verbatim of the chairman of a particular trust has with the country of a completely different country? What relation does he possess with the delegate of the European country? Of a whole
No
set of
relation,
countries in a
absolutely.
separate continent?
Yeah. So he possesses absolutely no relation. Okay. But what he says is related. Like how we studying in India, we in our answers quote foreign scholars because what they said is relevant. So I quoted him because what he said is relevant to what I am speaking and not to the fact that he is somehow related to my country, to Luxembourg.
Thank you. I think that has been cleared. Are there any more questions? Seeing none, before we move ahead, we are done with 3 speakers in this moderated session, and we will be entertaining delegates if they want to speak twice. So all those wishing to add their name in the list of this moderated session, we have 4 more slots. Please raise your hand. Delegates, we had 18 votes for this session, and now people aren't raising their hands. So we are allowing people to speak twice. So in case anyone wants to speak, please raise your hands. So we have Honduras, Argentina. Yeah, you can put your hands down. We have 2 more slots left. Would any delegate like to add their name, or we'll assume that there are no more speakers interested in talking about this yeah. So USA, and we'll have Libya. So we'll have USA and then Libya. So yeah, moving ahead, next we have India. So you can start.
Right to free speech and humanity is a precious gift, but not at the stifles others' voices. It should be protected, but not pandered. Over the period of general debate, various countries have either accepted their corrections or their current laws are required, and others have shown that they have added to the free speech and the expression of the laws. Absolute freedom to speech with no restrictions like giving an axe in the hand of a woodcutter to cut a single tree and he ends up winding up the whole forest. So the Indian Constitution guarantees freedom of speech and expression to each and every citizen, but itself allows significant restriction on it and in relation to maintaining the sovereignty, public order, foreign relations, security, and integrity both inside the nation and around the world. We believe that there should be a balance between individual liberty and protection of the society. And for that, some form of restriction that are in interest of the nation and which does not harm the civil rights should be necessary. In today's era of internet, ground root protection and borderline restriction need to be absolute. The laws like UDHR or ICCPR were developed far before the internet dominance. And today, any amendment, both in the individual country and the organization, is required. There cannot be any straightforward solution as how to tackle this problem, as each and every country has different problems that they are facing to tackle it. Moreover, the rights related to LGBTQ, criticisms on the government, and the freedom of speech and expression towards the different parties should be given at a point with a specific restriction adhered to it. I yield my time to the POIs, if any.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah. Delegates wishing to ask the delegate of India questions, please raise your hand. So we'll have questions from Honduras and Luxembourg.
Sir, may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, the delegate of India, for the wonderful speech. But my question is, can the people be completely trusted to handle an unlimited range of information and ideas without any government intervention? If not, where should be the lines between?
Delegate, can you please reiterate or rephrase your question?
Yes, sir, please
I
do.
will repeat my words. Can the people be completely trusted to handle an unlimited range of information and ideas without any government intervention? If not, where the lines?
So delegate in contention to the ideas that the citizen or a people can handle, they have absolute right to handle it in consent to the specific information related to security of the nation, related to the post they are handling in the official capacity. They have some restrictions in adherence to the different parameters which the delegate have already stated, and the bottom line should be drawn at the part when the security, when the integrity, when the public matter is being disturbed.
Thank you. Moving ahead to the delegate of Luxembourg.
Okay, so delegate of India, my question is that India balances political ideals to ensure freedom of speech and expression, but many people are put behind bars by misusing the sedition law. So what is India doing about it?
Delegate, there's a specific line, there's a thin line between the freedom of expression and sedition. The judiciary has the absolute right to take the decision on what grounds it is called sedition and on what grounds it is called the freedom of speech and expression. On the various cases, the fundamental rights, which is Article 19, it's been granted to citizen, but on some cases where there's occurrence of sedition laws, the absolute justice need to be given, as it should not be repeated on the forefront. I hope I answered your question well.
Need to follow up.
Please go ahead.
So judiciary is what safeguards people from being wrongly punished. So if judiciary in India is in nexus with the ruling class or the capitalist class, then they both are in hand and gloves with each other, and they together exploit the one who may be not the actually victim of the crime. So how does India tackle this nexus?
Delegate, there are three form of classification in Indian democracy, that is legislature, executive, and judiciary. All perform their specific function. There is no correlation. They can be correlation, but they are not in hands of each other that they can rule each other's profile. So, and being the part that you stated, if they're in hands of each other and they targeted a specific victim. So delegate, if possible, can you please point out a specific instance that happened? Because in the view of the country, nothing such had happened.
Am I allowed to answer?
No. Yeah, moving ahead, next we have Netherlands.
The delegate of Netherlands assents that a basic element of a functional democracy is to promote and sympathize freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of expression is a fundamental right enshrined in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Honorable Chair, Netherlands esteems that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. The free flow of information empowers people to claim their rights in the public arena. We strongly believe that the internet should remain as open as possible and stress that any restriction that may be imposed on an exceptional basis. The states have to ensure that freedom of expression is a top priority at various international organizations, including the UN, the EU, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. As Netherlands, the states should work with NGOs that promote freedom of expression. These include the Free Press Unlimited and RNW Media. Through its Human Rights Fund, the Netherlands also supports various projects relating to the freedom of expression, and I urge to the nations to do so. We need to develop international standards to strengthen human rights online, together with other countries that share the same principles. The states need to support the human rights ambassador who raise awareness about the importance of internet freedom in contacts with government, civil society organizations, and businesses. Netherlands believes that people's voices matters. People all around the globe have the right to say what they think, share information, and demand a better world. People also have the right to agree or disagree with those in power and to express these opinions in peaceful protests. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Points well noted. Would you like to entertain any questions?
No, thank you.
Sure. Moving ahead, we have the Republic of Korea.
Yes, sir. Okay. Beginning my speech in 3, 2. Okay. And Honorable Chair, I would just like to lay down certain types and forms of what constitutes as freedom of speech and expression. Firstly, there are different types for it. First being the right to liberty, the right of equality and fraternity, the right of self-identity, the right of humor, the right of criticism. Criticism may it be in any forms, verbal or written format. The right to, and the most important of them all, the right to remain silent as well. All countries present here speaking and voting have included these aspects in their drafts in their drafts of the respective constitutions, or through in the drafts of the respective constitutions, and through various laws and legislations they have formed in their individual country as well. But Honorable Chair, why is the timer paused?
Sorry, apology. Gaurav, any issues? Bianca?
There was some network issues, so I was disconnected. I have joined again.
Just a second. Bianca, you're here, right? Bianca from the organizing committee. Is anyone from the organizing committee here apart from Gaurav? Gaurav seems to have some internet issues. PCGT Conclave, Bianca. Just
do you want me to time myself?
No, I don't want that. Give me a minute.
Yes, Ishan.
Yeah, please share your screen and start the timer for this entire session.
Okay, okay. Just a minute.
Also, by the time we have one more slot left. So any delegate wishing to add their name, you could just raise your hand and we'll add your name there in the list. We are allowing people to speak 2 times. So any volunteers? If not, we'll end this moderated session at 9 speakers only. We have one slot left. Yes. So please add India in the list, Leah. Thank you. Yeah, Bianca, you may start. Republic of Korea, start your entire speech again.
Okay, sir. Beginning, Bianca, would you please restart the timer? Beginning on the count of 3. Beginning in, yeah.
Hey, you're not singing, your speech. Just start whenever she's starting your timer. What is this 3, 2, 1? Just start your speech.
Okay. Yeah. As I said, that the freedom of speech and expression is laid down in various forms, made with the right to liberty, the right to equality and fraternity, the right of self-identity, the right of humor, the right to criticism, whether it be in the verbal or written format, the right to remain silent. Honorable Chair, all countries present here speaking and voting have included all these basic rights in the form of various treaties, in the form of laws and legislations, or in the drafts of their basic constitution in one or the other format. But the problem which we are addressing today, is that the varying interpretations which all of these countries adapt into their different legislations. Everybody has formed different laws and legislations, and everybody has formed a different interpretation of them. Oftentimes, if each and not every country appreciates these legislations, the foreign countries' legislations, and they criticize those legislations. Hence, it is important that we apply, or we ally by the intrinsic meaning of the rights and liberties which these countries rights and liberties which are guaranteed to the these basic liberties which are guaranteed to the common citizens. I would just like to highlight and criticize the point raised by the delegate of Luxembourg about non-democratic countries. Now, the delegate, I find it very difficult to understand that why should we focus specifically only on the non-democratic countries. There are various human rights violations even being in the largest democratic countries as well, and hence it would not be at all appropriate if we have to think of the overall human rights, and we focus only on the non-democratic countries as well. Yeah, I would like to end my speech.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to entertain any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All those wishing to ask a question, please raise your hand. So we have USA and India. USA and India. And delegate of Somalia will clear your doubt after these questions are answered. So yeah, go ahead, USA and India. Delegate of USA.
Thank you. I'm audible now.
Yes.
Okay. As the delegate of Republic of Korea mentioned that people have the right to verbal and oral and written speech. Well, I would like to highlight one of the case which happened last year, where a foreigner, undocumented migrant Moroccan foreigner, was arrested and was bound with a rope for a long period of time. Do you think this really really I'm so sorry, really highlights the freedom of speech which is imparted to the foreigners in Korea? The Moroccan man who allegedly suffered from mental illness was detained for a long time. Does he not have a right to not be unlawfully detained for this long a period of time?
Delegate of USA, rephrase your question. You know what your question is?
Yes,
Put it
yes,
in like
yes.
2 lines, simple.
Yes, okay.
For this man with mental health issues who was detained, rephrase it properly.
Okay. In South Korea, is there any law which violates the human rights of foreigners? Is there any law to protect the human rights of the foreigners who visit South Korea? Because the Moroccan man who had visited had been detained unlawfully, and there was an external use of force. So what is the stance of South Korea on this?
Yes, ma'am, there are two aspects to your question. The first one being the law, with regards to the violation of the immigrants. So yes, the South Korea has signed treaties and is in regards with the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, and according to it, we cannot and with regards to the intrinsic values of that treaty, the country of South Korea does not violate any kind of immigrant from any foreign nation, and does not violate the basic rights of that immigrant from any foreign nation. And the second aspect being whether if there is any law with regards to the what was the second part of your question? With regard, sir, could I cross talk here?
The question was stated twice. Now, if you are not keeping a track of it, then I'm sorry, answer what you heard.
Okay, so let me complete my answer then. As I have answered, there are laws protecting for human rights violations of for foreign citizens, as well as there are laws protecting human rights violations of the people belonging to the country of South Korea as well. So I do not see that this is any problem there is any problem with regards to the human rights violations. If any, whether it be on a small scale, those are continuously tackled with the strong democratic roots of this country.
Thank you. Delegate of India, over to you.
Delegate of South Korea, you talk about freedoms and expression. I have two questions regarding it. First question, they are like North Korean regimes that communism have punished because of national security law have punished. South Korean regimes and communism have punished because of national security law speeches. The person who's speaking against North Korea or China, just because they are not in tie with you, you cannot punish the citizen who are talking about or criticizing it. And second question, South Korea have a strict election laws in which unofficially or officially the ruling party sometimes even punishes those citizens who are wearing particular color or propaganding about the particular election party. So in all those stands, you are infringing the right of freedom to speak and expression of citizens.
Right. Delegate, the first question is I do not think that I feel that your first question is a bit ironic in nature. The reason being, I believe that this is your statement that a country of South Korea has banned an individual from speaking against North Korea or China. If this is the verbatim which I have heard, and I do not think that there is any such law present in the country of South Korea which asks their citizens to not speak against or criticize any particular nation. The second part of your question, delegate, it is a very simple, it is a simply accepted fact all over the world that color represents our identity and some forms. Now, this should not come as a surprise to the delegate of India as well, where different colors are used by different political parties to highlight their own nature or to highlight their own representation or to highlight their own nature of identity to its voters, especially in the electoral policies by the politicians. Hence, I believe that if a particular color, when used at a wrong place, is trying to represent something which is anti-national or something which is seditious to the nature, which is seditious to such nature that it disrespects or harms the integrity of the country, then it is highly necessary to control and curb these to such representation, and this is what constitutes as reasonable restrictions, which has been generally accepted all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate of Qatar, what point?
Point of information.
But I think two were already recognized, right? Luxembourg and India.
Sorry, Chair, I had a doubt about the procedure.
Yeah.
So are delegates allowed to ask two questions at once?
If no one else raises your hand, then you're allowed to ask two questions. But there's a plea to follow up also technically, not indirectly, right? So in the previous one, we're talking about India or Luxembourg?
India.
So I think there were two parts of the question. So if you frame it properly, you can. But I think Republic of Korea did justice, to it when the question was answered. But you can't directly ask two questions. So we are taking note of that. Don't worry.
Okay.
Republic of India, what point?
So can I ask a follow-up question?
No, thanks. Somalia?
Yes, sir, I have a doubt.
Yes.
So can I criticize any country in my speech?
So you can bring out the faults or mistakes committed by any particular nation or state, right? But do it in a proper way, in a diplomatic way. Don't make it rash. Don't make it derogatory. But you can do that.
Okay, I can. I just wanted to ask this.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other points before we move ahead to Honduras? Yes. Delegate of Honduras, you have the floor for next 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please start.
Yes, sir. The honorable chairs and fellow delegates, here is my speech. The freedom of speech and expression is regarded as the first condition of liberty. It continues a preferred and important position in the hierarchy of liberty. It is truly said about the freedom of speech that it is the mother of all liberties. In the modern time, it is widely accepted that the right to freedom of speech is the essence in the society that it must be safeguarded all the time. The first principle of a free society is an untrammeled flow of words in an open forum. Liberty to express opinions and ideas without hindrance and especially without fear of punishment plays significant role in the development of a particular society and ultimately for a particular nation or a state. It is one of the most important fundamental liberties guaranteed against a state suppression or regulation. Freedom of speech and expression is not only guaranteed by the constitution or statutes of various states, but also by various international conventions like Universal Declaration of Human Rights, European Convention of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, etc. These declarations expressly talks about freedom of speech and expression. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to enter in any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Argentina. Argentina, you can start.
As judiciary play an important role in protecting fundamental rights, I would like to take an example of Argentina here. It has developed strong protections for the right to freedom of expression, especially through the Supreme Court's rich and vast jurisprudence in this area. During the last 3 decades, the Supreme Court has progressively included distinctions between private and public individuals, as well as public and private interest, to afford greater protection for public interest and government related debate. The Supreme Court has developed doctrines that protect journalists and the overall population from criminal and tort liability for defamation when dealing with public interest information as well as reproduction of information created by third parties. Argentine law guarantees freedom of expression, and Congress decriminalized libel and slander in 2009. With freedom of speech comes along a sense of responsibility. To promote human rights, one first needs to understand the issues. Many people have good intentions, but if they lack accurate information, their efforts can make things worse. So, thorough research from credible sources is way ahead. Donating money is another way to protect human rights. Money allows organizations to continue their work, whether it's providing aid to people in crisis or pressurizing governments to take action on human rights. Peaceful protest is also one of the most powerful ways to support human rights. Throughout history, protests have sparked major changes surrounding laws, regime changes, and many more.
You done, ma'am? Hello. Ma'am, you done? Delegate of Argentina, are you done?
Yes.
Would you like to enter in any questions?
No.
Next, we have the delegate of USA.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Why we need freedom of speech and expression, as it is the essence to any democracy. And as for the solution, first, we need to give right to information. Right of access to information held by public bodies is essential to the democratic functioning of societies and well-being of each individual via press and other journalist platforms. Responses to misinformation and false news. Well, The resolution makes a very timely reference to the issue of misinformation. It stresses that response to this issue must be grounded in international humanitarian rights law, including a principle of lawfulness, legitimacy, necessity, and proportionality. We urge all states to repeal all disproportionate and vague prohibitions on fake news and to ensure that all measures taken in response to misuse of these vague laws and meet humanitarian rights standards of legality, necessity, and proportionality. Counter terrorism and violent extremism. Over recent years, states have increasingly used counterterrorism and violent extremism measures not against terrorists, but human rights defenders, journalists, and other civil and society actors. These measures share in common ambiguous definition of terrorism and extremism, often disconnect from intent of accused to cause violence or likelihood of it occurring. We urge all states to reform counterterrorism, violent extremism laws to ensure they are precise and sufficiently narrowed to not include members of civil society, and to immediately cease repression of legitimate expression under the guide of such laws. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have any question? Do you want to entertain any questions?
Yes, sir.
All those wishing to ask USA questions, please raise your hands. So we have Somalia and Honduras. Yes, Somalia, go ahead.
Yes, so can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir, the delegate of USA spoke about human rights, but the same human rights were violated by USA when they bombarded Lebanon and Syria and the cities of Syria. So, how do they justify that?
Well, delegate, the agenda of this committee was to speak about freedom of expression and custodial violence. I hope I not shift from my agenda.
Yeah, thank you. Next question from Honduras.
Yes. Free speech will always pose some type of risk. For example, of hurting people, leading individuals to embrace false ideas, or a number of other harms. Simply, I have to speak that there is no single agreement upon ideal regarding speech and no perfect order with which to guide it. Would USA, would the delegate of USA like to share her views and uh, and throw some light on this topic?
Okay, as delegate of Honduras mentioned, that free speech, yes, does come with certain restrictions, as free speech allows the people to dissent openly for their demand of basic rights. Because if there is no free speech, how will people demand for their own rights, which are very basic and they are totally they are totally bound to? And for the part where the delegate mentioned, where the speech also brings in criticism, well, I would say free speech should be well. I would say delegate that free speech should be allowed, but with certain restriction. Not first of all, it should not be defamatory. Does not infringes the sovereignty of the country. So with these two restrictions, the free speech should be allowed. Thank you, delegate.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have the delegate of India, the last speaker for this session.
Right to free speech in democracy is the democracy's precious gift, but not when it stifles others' voices, but not when it hurts other voices, but not when it hurts others' intention. The different connotation of freedom of speech and expression are all over the world, and strategies to safeguard the basic right of the and liberty of the citizen. While genuine criticism meets with severe suppression on one end, hate speech runs amok in the grab of free expression on the other. Throughout both these ways, the far right has strengthened its hold in the world, and the social media allows to amplify the majoritism, xenophobia, and communal hatred. We in India assures fundamental right. There's Article 19 and Article 21, which revolves around all the other rights and acts which are made in the country. In India, citizens have the right to speak up their ideas, follow up their routine, follow up their intentions. And in Article 21 states the right to life. They have a perfect right to life, perfect right to health, and everything that freedom of speech indirectly mentions. Moreover, running over the social media has given voice to everyone. But this digital world, like a real world, is not a level playing field, and those who power quickly learn how to use it with their advantage. Moreover, in India, on the top of direct suppression of online speeches by arrest and local internet shutdowns, there was a method of indirect suppression. Troll armies, abuse people, flooding tactics, fake news, propaganda bots, paid commentators, and this drone down real persons. And this is not only happened in India, but all over the world. Stick and stones have broken the bones. But in 2020, 2021 has shown that words can hurt twice as much. In an instant, the pandemic video, which falsely claimed that the wearing mask activates COVID-19, a similar source created a storm of misinformation and caused a tremendous loss of life in America. This online platform need to be controlled, regulated, restricted, and this freedom of speech should be there, but with a minute restriction to it. Any EOIs?
Yeah. So all those wishing to ask questions to Delegate of India, please raise your hand. We have one question from the Delegate of Honduras.
Sir, may I ask a
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
How will India plan to decide who has human rights in India? Because I believe there may be several innocent people in the presence of India who are innocent of their crimes but still locked up because because they have no one to speak for them.
Delegate, in concern to the judiciary methods, we have a three-level forum. It consists of district court, state court, and Supreme Court. In regarding to people who do not have a legal representative or do not afford it, we have given legal aid, given government benefits to them. More in concern to the trials which are in row, which are in queue, but not listened. But we are having various different codes, various fast track methods, various mobile codes to hear these matters and solve it as soon as possible.
Thank you. No need for
Requesting a follow.
No need. Thank you. So with that, we are done with this moderated session. Delegate of Somalia, I asked for members to raise their hand, and volunteer to speak in this notice 3 to 4 times. Now, if members don't raise their hand, I'm sorry, I won't be able to recognize you. So all
Sir, I had raised my hand on the when you asked for the first time.
So first time we recognized 6 speakers, your hand was not there. Then second time, again, we did not see your hand. We'll have a new notice now after this. So I'm hoping you raise your hand properly and we'll ensure that we recognize you. So with that, this moderated session ends. So are there any points on the floor? Yes, Delegate of India.
AB, Delegate of India wants to call an unmoderated session for 10 minutes to discuss the agenda for the next moderated session.
Okay, so as I said, I was not in favor of this, but okay. So we'll go ahead we'll vote upon this. So delegates in favor, raise your hands of this motion for an unmoderated session for 10 minutes. Delegates in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, so we have 8 people. 10 more seconds. Delegates in favor of, yeah. Okay, thank you. Delegates against. So delegates for, put your hands down. Delegates against, raise your hands. Delegates, 4 members aren't voting. It is compulsory for you to, vote over here. Delegates, I would request you all to vote henceforth, but this notice does pass. We have an unmoderated session for next 10 minutes. please discuss all your topics, the next two topics at least, for the next two moderated sessions, and just let's go ahead with it. So yeah, you have time till 3:50, 3:48, 3:50. Nepal, what point? Yeah.
I
Drishik,
have a question.
yes.
Sir, the committee session is till 4 p.m. itself, right?
4:30, I assume, right, Drishik?
4:30.
Yes, sir. 4:30.
4:30. Okay, sir.
4:30.
Okay, understood.
So one minimum, maximum two if we have the time. So Shivam, I'll be Shivam. Yeah.
Yeah, Ishan.
I'll just
Yes.
be back in 15-20 minutes. If I've explained everything to Drishik, you can have a chat with him.
Yeah, I'm there.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Everyone, what should be our next agenda?
So agenda.
We had discussed regarding the assault
Women
and
thing.
the women subjected to sexual assault and psychological assault.
Women specific and race specific.
Yeah, or actually you can say LGBTQ specific or race specific because it will cover a broader aspect. Women भी आ जाएगा, सब आ जाएगा,
The gender and race is
Yes, gender.
but gender and race is good studies. But do we have to keep it with focus on custodial violence only?
Yeah, I think we should focus on more violence in general.
Violence is right, but custodial violence specifically or overall? Because custodial violence is different than overall violence.
freedom of speech and all will be included for sure. But you guys vote upon it. What do you all?
I think custodial violence, because that is an emphasis which we have to give.
I'm okay with custodial violence only. Yeah.
I'm too okay with the custodial
Can
violence.
you all please raise your hands for custodial violence?
Just
gender specific.
Yeah, just before you guys vote, I would just like to put forward this point that when we talk about custodial violence, we would have to narrow down our opinions only to custodial violence.
Yeah.
We cannot go beyond that. But if we keep it specific to violence in the whole, then we can speak about custodial violence also into that violence aspect.
As it is, we'll have 2 minutes max to max. So it's better we narrow down to custodial violence.
Okay, as you guys vote, no problem.
I have one more agenda. What about we talk about restrictions on press? That should there be a restriction on press, or there should not be any restriction on press in concern to freedom of speech and expression? Press also includes social medias, and
that would be too narrowed. India.
We have just 2 minutes, na? So if we all discuss a similar topic, then we could question on the same part also. Okay? A party differs something, and I say something different. The third party say something different. So we're just.
It's still very narrow, and only similar solutions will be come up with everyone, and it won't be a holistic thing, And if we,
I'm not pointing out solution. I'm just pointing out. Should there be any restriction, and if restriction, what restriction?
But the moderated is solution oriented.
We could keep a lower amount of time.
What? Sorry?
We could keep a lower amount of time for each speaker for this specific.
We need minimum 2 minutes. How would we speak like so much in less time?
See, we can vote upon the speaker time as well, but let's discuss it, finalize the agenda. Okay? Yeah, so this is the agenda. Can the delegate of Luxembourg put it again in the chat? I think she has put it, but
we need to prepare also, like we have to be fast. So jaldi. Strategies to safeguard gender and race specific custodial violence.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Then 2 minutes 30. 2 minutes 20. 2
minutes per person,
20
2
in total.
minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2
Okay.
minutes per person and 20 in total.
Acha, right.
Right. And guys, if you have more speakers, then you can extend the motion as well. अभी के लिए इतना रखते हैं.
ठीक है, इतना ही रखते हैं. Okay, done. We have time for 5 minutes.
Should we also conduct an session? We wanted to ask for permission to conduct a session to discuss tomorrow's topics. Moderated session.
Once our committee ends for today, then we can have a discussion amongst ourselves as well. We would not need a permission for that.
Okay.
But please do keep it after 8 o'clock.
If most of the people are here, then just after 4:30, we can discuss it for the next 10-15 minutes and we will sort it out with our
Actually, I have a class, so I can't attend it. Even I'm not available.
Guys, we need to have consensus for this as well. So we are discussing on one agenda. After that, we would end the session for today, right? And then we would come back for day 2 tomorrow. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are we good to start the proceedings now?
So we're beginning by 3:50, right?
Your unmod started at 37.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, all the delegates. Since we have just ended the, since we have just come to the end of the unmoderated session, I will now be requesting one of you to please brief me as to what the plan of action is. Any one of you can go ahead, just raise your hand.
Sir, we have discussed about the agenda.
Raise your hand before speaking. You're speaking out of order, Delegate of India. I said raise your hand, so I will recognize Republic of Korea.
Yes, sir. So we decided to discuss one agenda. that has been put in the chat, which is the strategies to safeguard gender and race specific custodial violence.
Okay.
And after that agenda is discussed. The total speaker time is 20 minutes. After that is done, we would end for today, and we would come back for day 2 tomorrow.
So you want to discuss one topic today?
Yes.
And then end the committee?
Yes, sir.
And you all of you have decided the topic together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good,
There is
good. That's
consensus on it.
all right. So please lower your hands. Everyone, please lower your hands. China. Okay, thank you. Delegates, are there any points on the floor? Luxembourg. Yes, what points, sir?
Yeah, motion to suspend
No,
formal
I'm
debate.
asking for
Okay, points.
not
Okay, got it.
motions. Yeah.
The strategies to safeguard gender and race
I'm
specific
asking for point, Luxembourg. I'm asking for point. Point is different from a motion. Okay. When I ask you for point, you can raise a point of person privilege, point of inquiry, point of order, all of that which has already been explained to you. I was asking for points. So if you have any points, you can raise your hand.
No,
Okay.
apology.
None. Are there any motions on the floor? If yes, please raise your hands. Yes, Luxembourg. Go ahead.
So the strategies to safeguard gender and race specific custodial violence.
No, you don't raise it like this.
Then motion to suspend.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Apologies again. Motion to suspend the formal debate and start a moderated caucus on the strategies to safeguard gender and race specific custodial violence. The total time is 20 minutes and per speaker time is 2 minutes.
All right. So therefore, your motion can accommodate 10 speakers. Delegates in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. Drishik, what is the quorum? What is the simple majority in this committee?
Sir, 12.
12, okay. We have 12 votes, 10 we have. Now 11. Is everybody voting or not? I don't know. 11 votes and the required number of votes is 12. So we are falling one short. Okay, everyone please lower your hands. Everyone please lower your hands. Now all those delegates who are against this motion, please raise your hands. Those who are against this motion. Those who do not wish that it be taken up, please raise your hands. Only one, that to Nepal, that's it. So that means clearly people are not voting. There are people who are not voting in this committee. Delegates, this is a procedural vote. You cannot abstain from voting upon a procedural matter in the committee, right? So it's my sincere request to you that please do not bypass the voting procedure on procedural matters. You have to mandatorily cast your vote on a procedural matter, this being a motion. Okay? Yes, 3 votes, still not enough. Still not enough. Everyone, please lower your hands. I will be taking the vote again. Requesting the delegate of Luxembourg to kindly raise the motion again, please.
Sure. The motion to suspend the formal debate and start a moderated caucus on the strategies to safeguard gender and race specific custodial violence. The total time is 20 minutes and per speaker time is 2 minutes.
All right. Delegates in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. All delegates who are in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. See, now we have 15. So there was clearly some dormant delegates. Does anyone know the meaning of dormant?
Inactive.
Sleeping. We use it in reference to a company. Okay, anyway, now that we have 16 votes, this motion clearly passes. So what we will do now is we will recognize 10 speakers who will vote in this motion. What I propose is that I will be recognizing those delegates, those 10 delegates. And Drishik, you can take a note of that list and you can put it on the Zoom chat or the WhatsApp group, wherever you have been putting. Right. Luxembourg, do you have any specific preference with respect to the speaking order?
No, sir.
Okay. All those delegates who wish to speak in this motion, which was raised by the delegate of Luxembourg, are requested to please raise their hands. Drishik, should I start recognizing them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Honduras, Somalia, UK, Republic of Korea. Republic of Korea, you're North Korea or South Korea?
Sir, South Korea.
Okay. Yes, otherwise the word democratic would have been added, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. Nepal. Whoever has been recognized may please lower their hands. Whoever has been recognized may please lower their hands. India. Qatar. Netherlands. Rishik, how many do we have?
Sir, we have 8. We still have 2
8.
more.
Okay, Luxembourg will be the last one and keep USA before that. USA will be the 9th, Luxembourg the 10th speaker. All right, thank you so much. That was a very good response. So we'll start with the first speaker. Now requesting, okay, Gaurav, yeah, Gaurav has already shared his screen. So each one of you has 2 minutes. You can refer to the list which has been posted by Drishik on the group. You have to go in that very order. Just wanted to clarify if your this being a moderated session, have you all kept it open to questions or not?
So
This
we
is
have
open.
kept it open for questions.
Okay, so basically, if time is left, then questions can be entertained by the EB, right? And if the delegate also wishes to, that's how you're following it, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, fine. So we'll start now with the first speaker. Drishik, you can call out the names.
Delegate
And
of,
Drishik, I will also request you to recognize people for questions if time is left. Yeah.
yes, sir. Delegate of Honduras, you have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Yes. Honorable delegates and honorable chairs and fellow delegates. Custodial violence primarily refers to the violence in police custody and judicial custody. Besides death, rape, and torture are 2 other forms of custodial violence. Custodial violence is not a recent phenomenon. Section 330, 331, and 348 of IPC, sections 25 and 26 of, for example, the Indian Evidence Act, section 76 of CRPC, and section 29 of the Police Act 1861 were enacted to curb the tendency of policemen to resort to torture to extract confessions, etc. Considering the gravity of the situation, it may be argued that there is a strong need for better custodial management all over the world. Role of police personnel is crucial in this regard. They should be trained in matters pertaining to human rights and prison management. Specifically, people belonging to lower castes, for example, should not be tortured without any specific reasons. There should be adequate number of medical and women personnel in prisons. In the opinion of NHRC, the human rights cells established by the state government should play a more proactive role in improving conditions in the prisons, including the provision of health and related facilities. The government should take up this matter on a priority basis. Thank you.
Delegate, would you like to entertain questions?
Thank
You weren't audible, delegate.
No, thank you.
Points noted. Next, we have on the floor the delegate of Somalia.
Delegate of Honduras. Can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
With respect to your speech,
Yes,
which country are you representing?
Honduras.
And you are discussing the laws of which country?
Sir, I used the sections
of CRPC, of Human Rights Act, which is all applicable in India. Whatever sections you have referred to are all applicable in India.
Yes.
So I should then credit India for the diplomacy which has been extended, that even other countries are talking about India in this committee. Okay. See, delegate, what I'm trying to say is that you have to, even when you are discussing on any sub issue, you remember that you are a delegate of that specific country. Okay. So even the laws that you are going to talk about, they will have to be relevant to that specific country only. So even Honduras would have a criminal procedure code. Even they will have an Indian penal code, a penal code, Honduras penal code perhaps, right? So they will have all these laws. They will also have a Human Rights Act. Delegate of Honduras, my request to you would be, you find out what are the relevant human rights and criminal law provisions in Honduras, and you please send a message on the WhatsApp group where the participants are added. Take your time, there is no hurry, but let the other participants know the provisions which are applicable to your country and not to India.
Yes, sir. Apologies.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Rishik.
Thank you, sir. Delegate of Somalia, you have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
One second, please. Please, can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I am the delegate of Somalia, and I will focus on custodial violence. As everyone knows that during the lockdown time, during lockdown, stores and other stores were prohibited. Or were not allowed to keep their shops open. But in Chennai, there was one incident that two people were running the shop even after there was lockdown. So police took them into custody and beat them to death. And this was violation of human rights. Custodial violence is a terrible thing which occurs in a lot of countries. Somalia condemns custodial violence and is taking strong actions against it. It violates human rights of these prisoners. Somalia is taking actions against any officer who, uh, who supports custodial violence, and has even suspended 3 of them in the city of Mogadishu. Thank you.
Point well noted, delegate. Would you be entertaining questions?
Yes.
Delegates wishing to ask questions, please raise your hand. Netherlands followed by Republic of India.
Yes, so I would like to raise a question that on January 30th, 2022, armed police raided Soyal TV and radio in a local media station in Abu Dhabi town and beat and detained its director, Mahad Bashir Osman, according to the Somali Journalist Syndicate. Before this, Osman has interviewed a group of police officers who went on strike, and he was freed later. So how would you like to justify that?
Sorry, I have no answer for this question.
Delegate. Further, we have the delegate of India.
Delegate of Somalia, you in your speech you tried to point out the Chennai incident that happened. In concern to my country, we have taken an adequate step to correct it and give justice to the accused. Moreover, I just want to highlight that in context of your speech, please refrain to adhere to your country, your stance, and not pointing out to the other country's stance as a moderator, as the agenda set is something different to what you are leading to it.
Can I answer?
Yes, delegate.
I just gave an example of custodial violence, and because I have no other one, and I was not criticizing any of the uh, Indian policies or the Indian police services.
I hope Republic of India is satisfied. Further, we have the delegate of UK. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes. Delegate of United Kingdom.
Yes, Honorable Chair and fellow delegates. In the United Kingdom, where Black people account for 3% of the population, 8% of the deaths which occur due to custodial violence are Black people. In my country, there has been historically a white majority, and so in our society, there have been race specific problems. We have faced a lot of race specific problems. We believe that in order to change and safeguard people, we have to make changes in the system. So here are few suggestions that other countries could implement that we want to try and implement in our country to decrease the amount of violence occurring in custody. First is the employment of persons from different ethnic groups and reservation of seats in judicial and executive positions and leadership positions to make sure that we are seeing different circumstances from different points of views, raising awareness for all persons' fundamental rights, more emphasis on the rule of law, and increasing police surveillance and decreasing the required time the officers take to respond to emergencies. To end my speech, I would just like to quote the first quote from Justice Ginsburg, who said, "When do you think there will be enough women in court? There are 9 out of 10." Thank you.
Points well noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
No.
Okay. Further, we have the delegate of Republic of Korea.
Okay. Yes. Honorable Chair, custodial violence is a major and a burning issue all over the globe. Uh, the statistics all over the country, all over the globe, prove that custodial violence has been on a constant increase, and that rate isn't decreasing. That is that is a concerning issue for all the countries here, especially when men are subjected to such violence on a larger basis all over the country. We cannot ignore all over the globe. We cannot ignore the plight of the women and the transgender communities, as to be specific, the LGBTQ community, which is the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer communities. What problems do the prisoners belonging to, or the criminals belonging to these specific communities have to suffer or undergo in the police or judicial custody? It is an observed trend that the incidences of custodial violences are much larger when they in the police custody as compared to the judicial custody. Your Lord, Honorable Chair, to lay out the points which are the problems which have been faced by us by women and these communities are the problem which I have to face is the problem of self-identity, eve teasing, violence, balance on the basis of their identity, and physical discomfort, and all of these problems, if we analyze the major, these are the four major problems, and if we analyze all of these problems lead us to mental violence as well. And the custodial violence cannot be just subjected to what constitutes as physical trouble, but we have to focus on the aspect of mental trouble as well. And this aspect, and in the conclusion, I would just like to state that rather than just limiting it to race and gender, we have to focus on much bigger parts, which are caste, which are ethnic minorities. All of these people also face a lot of problems in the custody of the police or judiciary. Hence, we have to keenly focus on all of such problems, which is gender, caste, ethnic minorities as well as the transgender communities. Thank you.
Delegate, you have elapsed the time, hence I don't think we would be entertaining questions. Points well noted. Further, we have the delegate of Nepal. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to be presenting the gender equality. So in this, we have in my country, this article was posed. The conclusions on the rights of equality. It was on the Nepal's Supreme Court has played a pivotal role in advancement of the rights of the Nepal women by crafting in an quantitative way, a neutral way that the consciousness of the equal gender means in the respect of Nepal. But as such as that Nepal, in Nepal, we have started a judicial process naming as meaning and making is articulate through the definition of the scooper remit and the boundaries of equal genders in a dispute fashion in the span of 25 years that the Supreme Court of Nepal has progressing become broader and more astute in this decision of making. And also in this that there are trans people and gender fluid people have custody of this article considering the claim. However, though that the equality in the Nepal, the Supreme Court has overall made a decision that there will be no states implementing states and positions of Nepal women is invested have no become uniform equal incentives or operatively successful. I'm ending here my speech.
Points well noted, delegate. Would you like to entertain questions?
No, I would pass.
Okay. Further, we have the delegate of India. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Start my speech, and I just want to thank Delegate of Honors to comment upon and to speak upon the acts and laws that even you find these acts are reasonably and logically protection of the rights of citizens. And in concern with the custodial violence, the legal framework in India, both constitutional and statutory aspects, contains provision relating to a safeguard regarding arrest, detention, custodial torture, and other crimes in custody. The substantive law provides punishment for a person causing injury, torture, or the death, and procedural laws contain the several provisions regarding the legal rights of a person in custody. The constitutional and the relevant statutory provisions on the subject have been supplemented by significant judicial pronouncements. In concern to gender stereotypes, still cause a downplay the subject to women, girls, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex people, and sometimes even equines in it. The report by the Human Rights Council looks at gender-based violence through a prism of various international declarations, conventions, and conventions and treaties, highlights the tendency to regard the violation against the groups as ill treatment, even there would be appropriately defined as a torture. Moreover, in addition, we as a delegate of India want to reiterate my pointers that in India there's a Protection of Human Rights Act in 1993, which gives NHRC and SHRC, that is National Human Rights Commissions, as well as human rights codes for better protection of human rights of a person in custody. India has ratified, acceded, and signed various international declarations, including UDHR, ICCPR, ICESR, ICERT, CEDAW, and various other things. In concern with the measures and solutions, India want to point out few measures that there should be a more police female staffs, and there should be better health and hygiene, and medical health should be provided. Moreover, in concern living a life and value for life should be improved to correct all these problems. Thank you.
Thanks, noted, delegate. Looking that you have elapsed your time, we won't be entertaining questions. Further, we move towards the delegate of Qatar. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Custodial violence in most countries is caused due to an overcrowding of prisons and due to the prison staff who are forced to work long hours to manage these prisoners. Therefore, the most effective way of combating custodial violence is not only retraining prison staff but preventing crime altogether. Qatar is one of the safest countries in the world with a safety index higher than liberal societies in the West. The crime index of Qatar is twice as low as that of Finland and more than 3 times as less than the USA. This sense of safety and security is due to the laws enacted by the Qatari government permitting extensive surveillance and encouragement of traditional family values, including dressing modestly for both men and women. Hence, countries have to realize that societal freedom comes at a cost, and they should strike a balance between allowing a certain degree of freedom to their citizens and placing a reasonable level of restrictions on them to prevent them from committing crimes as well as becoming a victim of one. Thank you.
Points well noted, delegate. You still have some time left. Would you like to entertain questions?
Yes.
All those who are wishing to ask questions to the delegate of Qatar, please raise your hands. Delegates wishing to ask questions, please raise your hands. It seems there are none. We would be proceeding. Oh, Republic of Korea, you are recognized.
Thank you. Would the delegate of Qatar please cast the light on the continuous violations or the continuous crisis of the immigrants in the country and the restrictions on peaceful assembly by the government of Qatar? This shows a sign of executive excessiveness, and please, if the delegate of Qatar would explain or justify this excessiveness, it would be beneficial for the committee.
The delegate of Qatar believes that the question asked by the delegate of Korea is not in line with the current agenda at hand and therefore choose not to answer the question.
Okay.
Well noted, delegate. Further, we move towards the delegate of Netherlands. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Honorable Chair, Delegate of Netherlands would like to take this opportunity to bring to the committee's attention, as per United Nations in-depth study on all forms of violence against women, report of Secretary General, UN document regarding violence against women in police cells, prisons, social welfare institutions, immigration detention centers, and other institutions constitute violence perpetrated by the state. Sexual violence, including rape, perpetrated against women in detention is considered a particularly egregious violation of the inherent dignity and right to physical integrity of human being and accordingly may constitute torture. Netherlands efforts to promote equal rights for women and girls worldwide, encouraging equal political and economical participation by women. Netherlands believes that all states shall refrain from engaging in violence against women in detention. States needs to exercise due diligence to prevent, investigate, and punish acts of violence against women, whether those acts are perpetrated by the state or by the private persons. We have to develop preventive approaches that promote the protection of women against any form of violence and ensure the re-victimization of women does not occur because of laws insensitive to gender considerations. States required to take measures to ensure that the law enforcement officers and public officials responsible for implementing policies to prevent, investigate, and punish violence against women in custody or detention receive training to sensitize them to the needs of the women. We all need to promote a culture that does not tolerate violence against women in any forms. Netherlands strongly believe that proper guidelines on rights of women in custody needs to be provided. Interrogations must be conducted with dignity and a stronger gender perspective is needed. Thank you.
Points well noted, delegate. Looking that you have elapsed your time. We won't be entertaining questions. Further, we have the delegate of United States of America. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Custodial torture is a gross violation of human dignity. That it is conducted and perpetrated mostly by law enforcing authorities makes it even more shameful for society. In 2003, Congress in USA passed the Prison Rape Elimination Act, PREA, is the first federal law to address rape and sexual assault in detention and applies to all US correctional and detention facilities. Among the stated purposes of the act are establishing a zero tolerance standards of sexual assault of any kind within detention to make the prevention of the prison rape a top priority in each prison system. As this being heinous itself, we need a structure, meticulous and stringent laws like first, no male member of the staff shall enter the part of the institution set aside for women in women's cells unless accompanied by a women officer, and that women prisoners shall be attended and supervised only by women officers. The rule provides that the male staff, such as doctors and teachers, may provide professional services in female facilities, but should always be accompanied by female officers. There should be a raise in percentage of female officers to male officer ratio, also increase the number of all races in proportionate ratio to accommodate a better environment in the inmate cells. All inmates should be informed that sexual contact between custodial staff and contractors and women serving the sentences is prohibited, and they have a right to complain if they're mistreated and should be punished or penalized. Setting up CCTV cameras in all required areas of the police station or the cell with audio available and keeping track of all the records for at least a decade is also mandatory. Thank you.
Points well noted, delegate. Seeing that you have elapsed your time, I don't think we would be entertaining any questions. And the last speaker for today, the delegate of Luxembourg. You have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Thank you. Custodial violence is like a ban on justice. It reduces faith of citizens in and the legitimacy of legal institutions to ensure justice. It has socio-economic, political, legal, and psychological impacts. A few strategies in Luxembourg which will help the globe are setting up Ministry of Equality. It will not only help in protecting people from custodial violence, but also help in combating gender-centric issues and thereby lead to progressive civilization. Setting up and keeping the violence.lu website updated and accessible. It is a website specially created to protect its citizens against various types of violence. Other strategies include ensure applicability of the enacted laws. A separate institution can be set up to act as a redressal mechanism and give justice to the victims of custodial violence. Mr. Nanda Kumar Sarvade also said that awareness and effective laws are the solutions. So, spreading awareness and improving the moral fabric of the society is important. It will make them aware of their rights, and they can use these rights against the arbitrary detention and violence enacted by them against the legal institutions. It's so happening that the ones who were supposed to be the law upholders are now becoming the law breakers and violence perpetrators. So this needs to be something we need to work on.
Delegate, are you done with your speech?
Yes.
Would you like to entertain questions?
Yes.
Delegates wishing to ask questions to the delegate of Luxembourg, please raise your hands. Honduras, I would not recognize you considering you raised your hand before I even finished. Delegates wishing to ask questions.
Sorry, sir. Can I raise my hand now?
Well. Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
Yes. There is no particular accurate clause passed about punishment till what extent can be termed as custodial violence. So would you like to elaborate Luxembourg's view on this topic?
Yeah, I will. So, sexual violence is the one that is mostly considered a big attack, and that is considered a more punishable offense than other.
Delegate, did you quote Mr. Nandakumar Sarvade from today morning?
Yes, I did. And I also quoted Sir Raja VP Raja in my earlier speech.
I hope you know you're not required to do that, but
Oh,
yes,
really?
we appreciate your attentiveness towards today's program.
Okay. It did support what I was
Because you
saying,
said,
so
yeah, so then I was wondering, because I was thinking if this was from today morning from his address. Actually, it was.
yes, it is.
I wonder if delegate of Luxembourg would do that. But yes, we see you as a conclave participant also, so appreciated. All right, I think with that we come to the end of the current moderated session and also the proceedings for today. As you all had decided yourself, you could stop sharing the screen, Gaurav. Thank you. So we hope you had a great experience. We are now looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting, adjourn the session. Yes, I will recognize now out of these three, Qatar, delegate of Qatar.
Thank you, Chair. Motion to adjourn the debate for the day.
All right. That motion is in order. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those in favor, please raise your hands. 16. All right, this motion passes. This motion passes. Everyone, please lower your hands. Are there any queries or concerns before we close the meeting? We'll meet at the reconvened time, which has already been intimated to you through the itinerary of the conclave. But we do expect to see you all for the dialogue by Mrs. Nirupama Menon Rao on Indo-China relations tomorrow morning. And after that, you can join your MUN session and then in the evening, the closing ceremony. Yes, any queries, concerns? How was your experience? Would anyone like to say anything? First timer, especially. How do you feel now after having spent so many hours? How is your feeling? Exhausted, or you feel more confident, or like how do you feel? Anyone who would like to share their experience?
Can I speak?
Yes, anyone can speak. Yeah, sure.
I am doing the Model UN for the first time, and I just want to say, frankly speaking, like my entire I just feel intellectual just sitting here and talking to all of these people. It was very inspiring and amazing. So many to see so many talented people who know so much, and I've learned so much about politics, freedom of speech and expression, like the on the agenda only throughout the session, and I feel very great. Thank you.
Thank you, Devashri. Thank you. Yes, anybody else who would like to share their experience?
Yes, even I would like to share my experience, like being a first timer, and there was so much to learn from all the participants. And till yesterday, I remember I was completely clueless. Like
you went on mute, delegate.
oh, sorry. Till yesterday, I was completely clueless that how am I going to present? What am I going to say? Like all the people are so good at it. So it was a great experience, and I wish I'll do it more in future, I think.
All right. Yes, anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to share.
Yeah.
So it has been my first experience as well, and I am really delighted, and it was a very nice experience. And one thing which I like the most is the participation of school-going children. Like when I was in school, I was clueless as to what even is happening around the world. Happening, I don't know. It was a teenage, so God knows what was happening. But at this age, these students are coming and participating in MUNs, and which is a very good sign of our country's future. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yes, Bianca, you can do that. And yes, Somalia, you can leave also. I'm getting some messages on the chat, so I'm just responding to them. I don't know if they are visible to you or not because I've not opened, but I got the notification.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful
Yeah.
session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.